and figure out as we go.
Share. Oh, it's early.
It is, yeah, it's a minute or, well,
Okay.
hi Kira, good to see you. Today we are talking about the book Outlive, chapters 5 and 6. And we were trying to put
There we
the,
go.
okay, we finally got the live up. We're trying to get the link for the books put up on both of the chats. And I'm not sure how well this is going to work, so we will see.
Especially with our internet.
Hi, Legs. Hi, Lillian, Jeff, Mrs. Owens, Ryan. Welcome, everybody.
Let's see.
I think so. Renee's going to keep working on that. So we're talking today. We're talking about the book Outlive, chapters 5 and 6, and these two chapters are both about metabolism. And for those of you who haven't been on the book club meetings before, if you have any questions or comments, please ring in. I would like this to be as much like a real, face-to-face book club, interactive as we can. Not required, obviously, because we do both have quite a bit of notes, but we do want to hear your thoughts and things. So Outlive is a book that is about lifespan and health span. And I got really interested in this book about a year ago, and Renee and I started talking about it, and she was really into the
Netflix Game Changers. Series? Not a series, just a show.
Yeah.
On how to eat healthier, live longer.
And made a huge difference to their lifestyle and health.
My husband lost 50 pounds.
So, okay. So today we are talking about, because chapter 5 and 6, we're talking about metabolism. And I'm going to say a quick hello to all the people I can see on the list right now. Marlene, Bari, Tracy. Welcome everybody. Dorothy, great to see you guys all. There's my notification for the live. Oh, I love my phone. Oh, I am going to preface this today with, okay, wait a minute. I do have...
It's on.
Yes, I do have it on. Our internet is been crappy,
spotty,
off
slow.
And on for the last couple of days. It was supposed to improve as of yesterday, and it only sort of did.
I talked to IT last night, and they said to expect it through Beijing.
Okay. So we may cut out. If that does happen, I will say that last time we had some problems with cutouts, and those did not show in the live that posted afterwards on YouTube. So if you miss anything, feel free to watch it later on YouTube. Okay, so chapter 5 is titled Eat Less, Live Longer, The Science of Hunger and Health. And I'm noticing I haven't gone back to look at every single chapter, but it seems like every single chapter does start with a personal story. So Dr. Peter Attia, who wrote the book, invited, well, I don't know if he organized it, but him and several friends went to Easter Island, which is where, I guess the locals, the gist of the story is the locals had, I don't know what you call it, because it wasn't a superstition. It was
historical knowledge that
right.
This island makes them heal faster, live longer.
Well, there was a certain place on the island,
the bottom of the volcano or something,
right?
A dead, extinct volcano,
right? And so scientists went there, grabbed some of the soil, studied it off and on over a couple of decades, I think.
And then the one guy they canceled his project, and then he took that organism
the
home,
microorganisms, yeah,
and got hired at another company, and they're like, hey, what projects are you working on? And he's like, I've got this.
Yes. And the really interesting thing about this molecule,
that's what it is,
right? Molecule, that's the word we're looking for. It's early in the morning here and it's been crazy. Anyway, so the interesting thing about when he first started studying it is he was thinking it was going to be this awesome cure for athlete's foot.
Oh yeah.
And it ended up being so much more than that. So initially, this drug is actually approved for use in humans, not in longevity yet, because they haven't studied that enough yet. But the initial use, widespread use, is as a
transplant anti-rejection drug.
Right. because it has, in certain dosages and in certain ways it's prescribed, it has immunity suppressing qualities, which is also why it's going to be very hard to get this tested and used on humans for these other applications that we're going to talk about. Yeah.
So, side note, we have a friend that we just found out last night needs a heart transplant and a kidney transplant.
Oh, wow.
And so I was texting him about this drug that we're going to talk about, and he's like, never heard of it.
Yeah.
And he needs it once he gets his transplants.
Right. So the name of the drug is rapamycin. It's named after, now we call that island Easter Island, but the locals call it Rapa Nui. So rapamycin, Rapa Nui. So they named it after what the Aboriginals call the island. And I do want to make a side note here. Most people, I'm guessing, have probably heard of Tim Ferriss. He wrote the 4-Hour Work Week and several other books that have been very popular. And so he was invited on the trip. This has nothing to do with longevity. It's just funny. He was invited on the trip because he's a friend of Dr. Peter Attia's. He knew he'd be interested in it. And he also knew that Tim would go swimming in the ocean with him, which would reduce his chance of getting eaten by a shark in half.
Because he could outswim him.
Or because they'd both be in the water and who knows who the shark would go for.
Yep.
And I think that's an awesome reason to invite a friend on a trip. Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
When's our next trip together that you're going to get in the ocean?
I'm not big on swimming in the ocean, so that's okay anyway. All right. So back to seriousness. I don't know really how to break all of this down because, like, I've just got so many notes on this. He talks a lot about mTOR and how turning down mTOR function is something that can be done in several different ways. And again, because the title of this chapter is Eat Less, Live Longer, is one of the ways to reduce the function of mTOR, which is something that seems to
boost your metabolism.
Yeah, but it can be done by reducing calories. And I guess so.
And they're not saying to reduce calories like to be anorexic.
No,
but just,
not long term, not for not long term, and not super reduction, right?
Yeah, because you still need your nutrients.
Right. The first case they had, first documented case they have of somebody trying this was back in the 16th century. So it wasn't a scientist, it was a businessman. And when he hit 40, he started developing he was also a very wealthy man who gave lots of parties and lived life,
Ate a lot of rich food.
Yes.
Kind of like we're doing now.
Yes. Anyway, so his doctor told him he needed to cut back, so he decided after a while to take that very seriously and took very good notes on exactly what he was doing, what he was eating, and how he changed his life. So that's why...
And basically the first diet book?
Essentially, yeah. And I think overall he dropped calories about 20 or 30% of what he was doing before. And he basically ate the same thing all the time, which was kind of a chicken stew. And I'm assuming vegetables.
Yeah. For, what is that, a year he did that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And managed to get rid, I think because he had gout, he stopped getting gout.
Signs of diabetes.
Yeah, they didn't know it was diabetes back then, but the complaints that he was experiencing were definitely diabetes. What are your notes on this?
So I wanted to talk about exploring the genetic variations of personal health conditions, how they influence your nutritional needs for aging, and then what diet plans would work for people are different than what would work for me versus what would work for you. And that what we just talked about, the nutrient-rich diets don't work well. That you do want to fast. I don't recommend fasting long time.
Morning, Tam. She joined.
Oh, good morning, Tam. But how fasting can affect your health, your aging, and your overall body, how you feel. Like, do you feel sluggish? Do you feel energetic?
Do you fast?
No, I need to. Do you?
I do every now and then, and
And how long?
I do different kinds of fasts. So when I was living in the Middle East, very often during Ramadan, I would fast. I mean, when I was working there, we weren't allowed to. We could eat and drink. We just couldn't do it in front of anybody else. So if you had an office, you could shut the door. But a lot of times, I would fast for the day, just kind of in solidarity.
Okay.
And sometimes I do like liquid fasts. So if I'll do either protein shakes or meal replacement shakes, I do that pretty often.
All right. So I'm confused at fasting. When I say fasting,
You mean nothing?
nothing,
No, not even water?
not even water.
Oh, wow, okay.
So I've not done that, but I
Yeah.
have done, like when we go on excursions, you get water in the morning and then you don't eat all day.
Yeah.
Because we're gone 6-8 hours. Do you consider that fasting?
Yeah. I mean, well, technically it is. It's
Okay.
intermittent fasting at the
Okay.
very least. So let me clarify. When I was doing that during Ramadan, it's from sunup to sundown. So
Okay.
and it is no water. So in a normal fast, I would not do no water.
You do your protein drinks, your
well,
water.
In a liquid fast, I would do water and either protein or meal replacement shakes. A true fast is more likely water only.
Okay.
So I mean, I would never go an
I've not-
entire day without water.
Not
'cause
done a true fast.
I don't think going without water has any health benefit to it. But going without food theoretically does.
Yeah.
I mean, from what the studies show, it does. So calorie restriction does help. He does talk about the fact that, well, it does help in mice, and we do have some evidence that it helps in humans. However, if you're doing long-term calorie restriction, it also puts you, makes you more susceptible to infection and basically makes you more frail.
Yep.
So over time, again, over the long term, it can make you more frail. So in a lab, you don't have to worry about infection and falling down stairs, if you're a mouse, right?
Yeah.
But in the real world, you do. Oh, and against the cold, your
Yep.
body needs
The
a
warmth.
certain number of calories and fat for protection from the temperature. So
And then did he also say about how when you fast it helps reduce inflammation, your gut health?
yes.
You talked about immune function, but what about your mental health? Does fasting, when you fast, how does your mental health feel? Do you feel clear, sluggish?
I don't think I feel clear. It depends on when I do it. I mean, sometimes I'm still like super obsessed with food and I'm like, oh God, I'm so hungry. And other times it doesn't bother me at all.
Okay.
So I don't have a consistent response to it. And that's probably a direct correlation with how I've been eating prior to that. That would be
make
my
sense,
guess.
yeah.
So anyway, the reason why I don't want to go into a lot of detail about mTOR and autophagy, which by the way is a really cool word that means self-devouring. But he goes into this, a lot of the process. And again, this is why I highly recommend that you guys are reading the book along with what we're talking about here in the book club. One, because, we're not doctors and we don't even understand all of the things they're talking about.
Yep.
And we're not recommending anything. We're just talking about the book.
Right.
That disclaimer there.
Holiday Inn.
Yes, we slept at a Holiday Inn at one point. Anyway, please make sure that you're reading this so that you're getting the information straight from the horse's mouth.
And can I ask everyone on the live, has anybody fasted and how did they feel about it?
Oh, yeah, good question.
And was it a liquid fast or what are the other ones you called them? No water.
Yeah, a liquid only fast or sunup to sundown
Okay.
fast.
Because what port were we just in that Ramadan was there and they could not eat? Was it?
Was it Lombok?
Lombok.
Yeah,
Yes, it was Lombok.
It was Lombok, Indonesia.
Yeah.
So yeah, so we're gonna keep going. But if anybody has any comments about fasts they've done, how they felt about it, or how they do that, feel free to type that in. Back to rapamycin. So rapamycin does reduce the function of mTOR as well as something that you can do with calorie restriction. There's also another one he mentioned, I think it was metformin that does
Yes.
this as well.
And metformin also, what do I want to say? Helps with longevity.
Yes, and is also currently approved for for use in humans
For
as a
diabetes.
treatment for diabetes. Right.
Yep.
So Mo M says no water, no food. Okay.
Oh, how'd that go?
Yeah, I'm really interested, and I'm wondering.
And how long?
Yeah. So, because three days is the max I think humans can go without water. So I'm guessing you're not doing that long term if you're doing no water. So Mo M, is that sun up to sundown like you would do with Ramadan, or do you do full 24 hours? Or I'm curious on that one. And then so another thing I'm going to mention about metformin is they talk about how that also lowers the incidence of cancer, which is really interesting. I mean, it's not prescribed as a...
But it's just another benefit of taking metformin.
Right. And so to get to, I know I'm kind of jumping ahead here, but the end point of chapter 5 is, I'm going to actually read, because I wrote it down word for word, or I think I wrote it down. Medicine 3.0, the concept of using drugs to make healthy people healthier or extend life or health, is really interesting to me. And to me, this is one of the big things about this book and what is so important about it. It gets you from thinking, how do I react to something that's going wrong with my body, or just the natural effects of aging, to how can I get in front of this?
Proactive.
How can I be proactive? How can I be preemptive? And the fact that the medical community and, insurance companies are not on board with this 100%, really,
It's annoying.
it's mind-boggling to me.
They would rather pay for all the surgeries and treatments after instead of the pill up front.
Right. Again, because you're already healthy, so you don't need that. That's kind of ridiculous. What else you got on your notes there?
Well, sticking with metformin for a minute, my husband, whose was diabetic, and they kept him on metformin even though he's now pre-diabetic or normal, but normal's just a setting on the dryer. They've kept him on metformin the entire time, and they will continue. Did a 3-month
Yorkie Mom, liquid diet. Oh, so I'm assuming that you were doing protein and other nutrients in yours, but still liquid diet. Yeah, it's rough. Not being able to chew after several days is really difficult. Spiral Down says water but no food. It's also better for your metabolism to have several small meals a day rather than 3 big meals. Yes, I agree. In my opinion, but you're not a specialist. I got that. That's our disclaimer too, not specialists. We're just reading a book we like.
And then that's what I do. Everyone says I eat like a bird. Well, a bird eats 10 times its weight every day, but I eat small meals all day long.
So you probably, your metabolism is probably, because you've always done that, right? So her metabolism is probably used to that.
Yeah.
And also with small meals, you're not getting huge insulin spikes either.
Right.
So clearly she does not have an issue with insulin resistance or metabolic syndrome. Well, at
That I
least
know of.
no outward signs,
Yes.
right? Because that's another point of the book is sometimes there aren't any outward signs. So Skits, this live is about, it's a book club, and it's for the book Outlive by Dr. Peter Attia. We fast from sunrise to sunset for 30 days. I think you should try
wow.
it because it helps with discipline. Yes. So I have in the past, when I was working in the Middle East.
For
I used
30
to,
days?
No, not for the whole 30 days, but
Wow.
certainly on the days while I was at work.
Okay. Well, and then when you fasted, you got your micronutrients and your minerals and all of that through the protein drinks, I'm assuming?
That question is for Yorkie Mom. Yeah. Tam, I tried to drink more water. I couldn't do the no water part. Yeah, that's hard. It is really hard. Can you say, I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know what UWU is. Again, the book is Outlive by Dr. Peter Attia.
And I did post the link in both TikTok and YouTube.
Oh, awesome. Thank you. We finally figured that out. Okay, so the last part is what we eat and how. Oh, sorry. Were you done with your thing, or
Just a second. Fasting, minerals. Yep, done with those.
Okay. What we eat and how we eat it, or sorry, what we eat and how we metabolize it appear to play an outsized role in longevity. So it's not just about what you eat, it's how you eat it, how you eat it, because how you eat it affects how you metabolize it, and what's going on with your own little body chemistry thing going on inside.
Yeah.
And then, so moving on to chapter 6. This one also has a lot of data and numbers, so I hope you guys are reading this. And
It was tough to get through some of the data.
yeah, it was. Not because we didn't understand it, but like I'm having to take so many notes. Like if I'm going to bring this in to talk to my doctor about,
Oh, I'm
yikes.
taking notes.
Yeah. So I feel like I'm copying the entire book before I go in to see the doc. The crisis of abundance. Can our ancient genes cope with modern diet? Again, we started another chapter with a story. Do you remember this one?
I do.
So this is one of the first surgeries he did when he was a surgical resident at Johns Hopkins.
Yes.
And his job was to prep the patient for surgery. Okay, so I'm going to go back. What's the ending again? The last bit of chapter 5 is what we eat and how we metabolize it appear to play an outsized role in longevity. All right, so back to chapter 6. So the story is he's prepping this patient for surgery, and it's his job to find out, to ask all sorts of general health questions, one of which is,
Do you drink?
do you drink a lot? Yeah, okay. Do you drink a lot? And the guy said no. Actually, you know what? I think I am going to do that. Because I don't know where that's going. And the guy said no.
And was adamant about it.
Yep. And so when the guy's under, and it's really important from a anesthesiologist perspective. You are what you eat, in short. Yes, very much so. So they cut into him and they look at his liver, and it's full of fat. And
that's typical of an alcoholic or someone who drinks a lot.
Right. So
in the past, that's what they thought.
Right. So when the surgery was over, and this wasn't too long ago, this was within his life, literally within his lifetime when he was doing residency. So not that long ago. So after surgery, they talked to him again. Yeah. Drink a lot of ciders. So again, the guy's still adamant he doesn't drink, and so they didn't need to do anything for him. But
he found out that he drank a lot of Coke.
Yeah, so
a lot of soda,
carbonated beverages, soda stuff.
Yeah, not Coke.
Yeah,
carbonated beverage.
Don't come after me. It's Coca-Cola.
Yeah.
Anyway, so this led to the understanding of something non-alcoholic.
Fatty liver disease.
Yeah, fatty liver disease, which is a precursor, I think, to NASH, which is also non-alcoholic. And then there's some technical term that I don't remember, and also I didn't write it down. But so it kind of starts with non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, and then it progresses to something called NASH, and then if you don't do something about it and it stays that way, then you're into cirrhosis, which makes it really hard to do anything about, because then your liver's basically shutting down at that point. So one of the great things they talked about, though, in this section is how
you can reverse it.
Yes, like up until you get, and you can still reverse some things in cirrhosis too, but the liver is very regenerative. So he mentioned that when they do a liver transplant, whoever gets a piece of their liver cut out and gives to another person, within 8 weeks they both have full-size livers. So whoever had theirs cut, it's regenerated to the same point as before, and whoever got the transplant has a full-size liver again within 8.
Yeah.
And it only takes for like 80% of that growth happens in the first couple of weeks. So
did this book make you check your liver numbers?
It did.
Me too.
So you want to share yours?
Let me get it while you.
Or not your actual numbers, but I mean, like,
it was good.
Oh, your liver numbers were good.
It was good, but I'm still going to talk to the doctor because it's still in the green, but it was starting to inch up because I had a history.
Okay.
And
Like family history or
no,
personal?
history of every time they took it.
Oh, okay.
I went back and it's inching
Oh,
up.
I see. So you have
A
multiple
graph.
results. Gotcha.
Yes,
Okay.
I have multiple.
So that's handy. So we move around a lot, so I don't have the same doctor, so I don't have that information. I'd have to like
Manually do it.
yeah, which
We
would
can do that. It was interesting.
yeah. And so another point to this is another reason why I really like this book is because it gives you information about what you can, not only about what you can do about things as they are now, but
Proactively talk to your doctor about this stuff.
yes. So when I read this book, it was like June or July, and it was right after it came out. And the last time I had blood work done was February, so prior to, and I pulled up, logged into the website, printed my stuff, and then I looked through every single result in that blood test, and I had 3 different, and I don't remember which ones they are, where I was in the red, as in.
What'd your doctor say?
The doctor never brought it up at all.
Wow.
So I don't know that they even looked at specifically because when they
Wow.
did the blood work, they were looking for something specific. They weren't looking for just general health
But it's
things.
still in the red.
Exactly. And so when I made my next appointment, I took that printout in and I had all of those red numbers circled. And I said, I got 3 here that indicate I'm at risk for something. Why aren't we talking about this? And the interesting thing about that is that in this particular doctor's office, there's always medical students who are doing residency rotations.
So you have to tell them that time, then every time someone new walks in the door.
They do make notes, and her PA is really good.
Okay.
But there were 2 of them in the room at the time, and they were kind of like, oh, wow, let's go talk to the doc about this. Because, I mean, they're not going to start a treatment, obviously, without talking to the doc. It's, that's the whole point of residency is learning, not necessarily dictating. But I hope that they learn something from that when you have tests, when you run tests on your patients, to go through all of the results and not just the specific ones you're looking for.
And make sure you look at your results as well, because they do miss stuff.
Right, they do. They're humans.
They're doing a patient, every 10, 15 minutes? They're
Exactly.
cranking them out.
And the internet is perfect. Like another thing in the book, he gives what he thinks there's a difference between normal and optimal, right?
Yes.
So just because your test results are normal or average does not necessarily mean they're particularly healthy. So
because the average keeps moving as
the
generations keep getting their numbers
as a
added
group,
in.
we become less healthy.
Yeah.
Right. So
You're
so
right, spiral down. Be vigilant. I hope you go take a look back at your numbers again.
Yeah. So understanding what the numbers mean, as far as you can look those up on the internet. The internet will always have what the normal or average is, so you can see where you compare to that.
I call it Dr. Google.
Yeah. Careful with that though when you're trying to diagnose, right?
Yeah.
This is just
Go to a doctor.
This is just for test results. And again, it's just a point of reference for you to start the conversation with your own physician. Absolutely, and being vigilant and educating yourself on where those things should be. The numbers comparison on the test results, I really, really appreciate that about this book.
Let's see.
Metabolic dysfunction and metabolic syndrome. So this is what we're going to talk about next. There are 5 things that indicate whether or not you have metabolic syndrome. And if you have 3 of the 5 or more, you do have, according to the definition, you have metabolic syndrome. One is high blood pressure. And as I'm going to say what he has in the book, but how they define high blood pressure has also changed over time. Because when I was in my 20s, it's not the same. It wasn't the same then as it is now. But in the book, it's reading as higher than 130 over 85.
Do you want to know what mine is?
Yeah, what's yours?
100 over 70. Consistently.
That's really low. 100 is low.
Yeah, consistently. And they've never said a thing about it.
That's weird.
But as I said, after reading this book, I'm like, taking notes. I'm like,
Yep.
okay, why?
Next time we get to the doc's office. Okay. High triglycerides and low HDL cholesterol. Now, he had numbers in the book for this one. I'm actually not going to read these off because this is high blood pressure is one of those things you can have checked, at the
At home.
CVS or at home or whatever. But these are numbers that you really should be discussing with your doc and your particular situation. So I'm not going to repeat those numbers. Again, if you've got the book, you can read them. Item number, so that 2 was high triglycerides and 3 was low HDL cholesterol. 4 is central adiposity. So that means, around the waist.
Your visceral fat.
Yeah, the visceral fat around the waist as opposed to subcutaneous fat. And then number 5 is elevated fasting glucose. So this was another thing about my last blood test. They didn't tell me, and in fact, I specifically asked before I had the blood work done, do I need to fast for this? And they told me no. So I didn't.
Okay. That's weird.
Yeah. And so I didn't get a fasting glucose. I got a glucose test, but it wasn't fasting glucose.
Mm-hmm.
So, word to the wise, if they don't tell you, especially if you're doing it in the morning, if they don't tell you to fast before you do it, maybe do anyway, because you'll get better information out of that. Spiral Down says, had 194 over 180. 194 to 180. I got down to 124 over 60. That's
Excellent.
awesome. How did you do that? I'm curious how you did that. Lifestyle, obviously lifestyle change, because that's a lot for medication to do. So I'm assuming eating and exercising.
Real quick, when we're talking about visceral fat, at home I have a scale that attaches to.
Oh, you got like things you can step on?
Yeah, you can step on it, and it tells me
okay.
what my visceral fat is, my body fat, my
Subcutaneous.
and I'm high.
Oh wow. Oh,
And-
but that's the one that's not a problem here. But that I find that hard to believe anyway.
So and it also tell me based on how I weigh right now, what my wage should be. My age. It's early.
Okay. Oh, your
My
gotcha. What your
yes.
what is that concept? Spiral, 1 pill. Oh wow, you cut down some salt.
Oh yeah.
It's all stress. Okay, yeah,
Oh,
reducing
yeah.
stress. So we're gonna
get to
we're gonna
that.
talk about cortisol in a minute here. So again, if you have 3 of those 5 things, high blood pressure, high triglycerides, low HDL cholesterol, central adiposity, and elevated fasting glucose, those are the 5 things. If you have 3 of those 5, by definition, you have metabolic syndrome. And so the rest of this chapter is really about how controlling that before it gets, or controlling it, or making adjustments to that, or making lifestyle changes to bring that back in check is important before it gets blown out. And it goes over the mechanics of what happens. He used a balloon example to talk about insulin because weight is highly regulated by our hormones.
Yes.
And so I'm going to say something about this for all of those people who said calories in equals calories out, or calories out, whatever.
Yeah.
Not true. And the fact that people keep saying this, despite hundreds of thousands of people's lived experiences showing that is not true, really, that's like one of my personal pet peeves. I hate that. Yeah, I get really animated when I get pissed off, by the way. In case you haven't been watching my videos. It takes a lot to piss me off, but once I'm there, right? Anyway, so again, metabolism and how we process the calories that we take in is highly regulated by hormones. Insulin is one of the main hormones that is affected by that. We all know that, right? All of the weight loss drugs that are out right now specifically help with how your body handles glucose, sugars in general, and the insulin. So when he did a balloon example where when you're blowing up a balloon, imagine the air is the insulin. Is that right? Yeah. Sorry, the balloon
Is the cells. The air is the
is the
glucose.
cells, and the air is the glucose. So at a certain point, as you're blowing into that balloon, it becomes really hard to put any more air into that balloon. Yes, exactly. Sorry. Fat storage, great. Yeah, the balloon gets bigger, the fat cell gets bigger, and it gets harder to put more air into it. It's the same thing with the insulin. And then he also used a I'm trying to find it. It's the bathtub analogy, but I'm trying to find where I have it written down. I'll just have to say it. So the bathtub analogy is, say you're filling up a bathtub, you've got the spigot on, and at some point, because you're still doing this, is the analogy is fat going into the cells, right? At some point, if you don't shut that off, the tub's going to overflow, and it's going to go all sorts of places you don't want. That's essentially what happens to your fat cells. And he talked about how the fat will actually start entering cells or fat droplets, or he had
which
some,
causes the visceral. 'Cause
right.
It's
That causes the visceral fat, and also it gets into your muscles and between your organs and all of that stuff. Places where it doesn't belong. I mean, when a fat cell is created, it can't be unmade, only shrink. I'm with you. Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely. And so I really like that example. That analogy, because it's really dependent on the size of the spigot that you're using, how fast it's coming in,
and what's going out.
and what's going out at the same time, what you're able to burn. He spent a lot of time talking about the difference between in fructose and glucose, and about how the difference between drinking apple juice and eating an apple. I think most people know that there's way more sugar in apple juice than there is in an apple, and even if it is no sugar added apple juice, it's when you're drinking apple juice, it's not coming in with fiber and water and other things, and so it's too much. Your body can't metabolize it as well as it can when you're just eating an apple and you're taking your time chewing it. Most of us know that at this point, but I'm saying it just to.
Or we just had Easter and I ate a whole bunny.
You ate a whole chocolate bunny?
It was white chocolate. It was terrible. But I'm done.
Okay, but now you're done with it.
I ate the whole thing. I'm done.
And so again, everything in moderation, right?
That was not moderation.
Not one chocolate. Yeah, but one chocolate bunny isn't going to hurt unless you're at the edge anyway. I'm not saying you should do it for the same reason you shouldn't eat an entire pizza in one day.
Okay. But yeah, it was bad.
Just don't make it a habit. I mean,
Easter comes once a year.
Yeah, it's once a year. Well, then there's Halloween, and then there's all the
yeah.
Okay. Where are we going next? Okay, so cortisol is the other one. Okay, so again, we were talking about how metabolism is very much regulated by hormones. So insulin is the one that we're all familiar with. Cortisol, I think, is somewhat known, but maybe not as well known as insulin. So, and cortisol is basically your body's stress response to anything. Physical stress, emotional stress.
Are you always in fight or flight?
Yes.
And always up there just going. That's not good.
So.
Thank you. That's okay. It happens. It does.
And how much you sleep, right? So if you're not sleeping well, it's something you really need to fix. And this is another thing, a serious problem with the medical community. Almost everyone has some kind of a sleep disorder. And if it's not sleep apnea, there's nothing It's
insomnia. But if it's not apnea, they ignore it.
Right, they ignore it. And insomnia, they give you a pill. But once you start taking pills to sleep, it's really hard to get off of them.
Yep.
I don't know anyone who ever started. This is one of the reasons why when I have trouble sleeping, I try to look at what the root cause is and do something else to fix it. And I realize that's not an option for everybody. But again, once you start on the pills, if you start taking them regularly, I mean, once in a while is probably okay, but
becomes habitual.
Yeah, it's habit forming. Then you literally can't sleep without them. So I am not a advocate of those at all. There was some really interesting stuff at the end about how fructose tricks our metabolism into thinking we're depleting energy. And he didn't have an analogy for this one, but it was more of a story. Do you remember this one?
Go ahead and start.
I'm trying to remember it. That's why I was
because I was looking at my notes and I'm like, did I do the wrong chapter for this?
Oh, so I think this was the apple and the apple juice story, actually. I think so. So when you get that much fructose coming in, it had something to do with the energy exchange. I think in the cell, there was talk about.
Yeah,
I don't really remember it. Let's see.
But we can make a difference by, of course, eating correctly, sleeping correctly, and just moving. What are we doing to move our bodies?
Yes. Okay, so it was the apple and the apple juice story. So metabolizing fructose is different than all the other sugars.
Enough cortisol. I'm with you. I also, she says, I have enough, or Spiral Down says, I have enough cortisol to pass out to the rest of the class, and I'm with you as well.
Thanks, Tammy, for the love. I really appreciate that. So, again, so it has something to do with the energy exchange. So, glucose, the main other type of sugar, there's this sort of energy exchange, and the way the cells react to glucose coming in and producing, I can't remember, it was ATP or ADP, one of those. So there's an energy exchange, and so how the cell handles the glucose is, sort of a 1-for-1, and yes, we're using energy, but we're also gaining energy in the form of glucose. Fructose is different. And it doesn't matter what kind, but some kinds are better than others, right? So what fructose does is that energy exchange doesn't happen, and so it tricks the cell into thinking it's depleting energy but not getting any back, and that's
where you gain your
right
visceral fat.
And that's one of the reasons why, in general, fructose is so bad.
And it's in everything.
It is.
It's in ketchup. I mean, why do they need fructose in ketchup? Read the back of your label. It's crazy.
Yeah. I'm not necessarily doing low carb or keto, but it's important to read the back of the label, even if you're not looking at sugars directly. The number of carbohydrates that you're looking at, it really should be at a certain level. I mean, I'm not saying low carb or keto. I'm just saying,
take a look.
Take a look at the labels and start trying to eliminate the unnecessary carbohydrates like added sugar and things, right? Right, because back in the 80s, it was fat that was bad for you, right? So they started taking fat out of everything and adding sugar instead to make it taste good.
Found out where you eat fat.
He also, I'm sorry, I'm getting scratchy throat. Maybe because I've been talking for 40 minutes. Do you have anything in there about the continuum?
I do not, because mine starts about exercising. What are you doing to exercise to improve your insulin sensitivity, your muscle fitness, and to expand your health span? Not only are we dealing with the micronutrients, but what are you doing to get those micronutrients into your body and then back out so your fat cells are shrinking? Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
So again, there's a lot of talk in the chapter about how physical activity is important. He's not getting into specifics at this point. He goes into that in way more detail later in the book. Those are really interesting chapters. Hey, Jemmy, good to see you. Scrap, Tammy again, thank you for the continued love. So how your body metabolizes things is kind of on a continuum, right? It's not going to be the same throughout your life. It's going to change, and there's a process that your body goes through before you develop metabolic syndrome, and before you may or may not develop diabetes. It gets way more common the older you get. So even if you don't have a predisposition or a family history, if you live long enough, sometimes you'll develop it anyway. Yeah. And the crazy thing is only when you have full-blown diabetes do you get treatment. So even when you have pre-diabetes, you don't get treatment. Your doctor says, hey,
we're going to watch it.
We're going to watch it. And then they give you vague stuff like you need to eat healthier and exercise more. And they don't necessarily tell you what you need to do for your particular body type or whatever.
And if they don't seem concerned, then why are we concerned?
Exactly.
They give you this,
yeah, we're going to keep an eye on it.
Okay, thanks. So that tells me I shouldn't be concerned instead of being proactive.
Right. And
have you found your metabolism has changed over your lifetime?
It has. Yeah, not hugely so, but yes, it has. I'm having a really hard time now since I turned 50.
It gets worse.
I'm not happy to hear that, so I'm just going to ignore that you said that. But
Spiral Down, have you tried the paleo diet?
I have not.
I have not either.
I don't even know, I don't even know what the definition for the paleo is. I mean, I heard about it.
Mhm.
I heard about the concept of it, but
Yeah.
I think it's heavy on meat, and other than that, that's all I can think of.
Okay.
Kira, it's not bad. That's a very diet culture statement and can be triggering. Just FYI. Okay. Kira, I apologize. Can you tell me what? Because I don't remember what I said when I said something was bad. Was it when I was talking about fructose?
I'm not sure.
So I'm gonna. So Kira, if you can explain that, I would appreciate it. I'm not sure what I said. But I want to correct it if I said something inappropriate.
Eat only what your ancestors could find.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
No, that was Spiral Down.
So okay, so that would be hunter-gatherer stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing it would be heavy on meat. And I'm still waiting.
And fruits and nuts and
Right.
yeah.
And some grains too.
Mhm.
I mean, obviously not processed grains, but so pre-diabetes is just a warning. Yes. And
It's a canary in the coal mine.
exactly. We can make huge differences with overeating, or because
You're overeating,
Most-
undermoving.
most of us are overeating, undermoving, and undersleeping.
Mhm.
And so he doesn't really talk a lot about sleep in this chapter. He does in later chapters. But it's kind of interesting that he doesn't. I guess because these two chapters were so long, and it was two full chapters
And
all
data
about
intense
and data intense on metabolism, that undersleeping is not really talked about
until later.
because in the United States anyway,
It used to,
going without sleep was like a badge of honor.
yes.
You know, oh, I work so hard.
and I think that's changing.
It is.
But in the 70s and 80s, it was like, oh, I can work on 4 hours of sleep and
Yeah.
be effective. No, you're half drunk.
And well, to be fair, sunlight has a lot to do. I grew up in Alaska.
Oh.
And the last couple years I lived there, I was working north of the Arctic Circle in the summertime. So it did not get dark at all.
So what'd you do?
I would sleep for 4 hours and then my body would wake me up and I would not be able to go back to sleep.
So you didn't do like the blackout screens and try to like simulate.
I
No.
mean, so, how do I want to explain this? So I was living in a travel trailer because it was literally in the middle of nowhere. So you had to bring your own house to work there, or a camp situation. So there was a limit to how much light you could block. It didn't really help anyway because
It's bright.
it's bright.
So was that everybody up there, or the majority of the people just sleeping 4 hours?
Well, or 4 to 6 hours. I don't know. I didn't really ask other people about it, but I would imagine that's probably true. And then about every 3 weeks or so, I would crash out and have to sleep 10 hours.
Oh, wow.
So it clearly my body needed the sleep. It just wasn't.
It had to catch up.
It had to. So because it had to catch up, but it was very frustrating to not be able to go back to sleep because it was light
Wow.
out all the time. But you can get away with a certain amount, based on the relative daylight, I think, but still not
And what
good.
do you sleep now?
About 7,
Okay.
and
I'm
that's
about
just.
5 to 6.
How about you guys?
And do you feel rested when you wake up, whether you sleep 5, 6, 7, 8, 9? And also, too much sleep is not good for you.
That's also true, yeah.
But we'll get to that in another chapter.
Oh, one other thing I wanted to mention that is in chapter 6. And this again has to do with the medical community. Elevated insulin is the first sign of metabolic syndrome. So if you're doing tests and you have elevated insulin levels, thank you TJ for the love there. If you have elevated insulin, that's where you probably need to start doing something about it. But in medicine 2.0, which is where we are now, they don't treat insulin resistance. And the interesting thing about this is because if other hormones that you had were this far out of whack, like you would see in elevated insulin levels, those would be considered hormonal disorders that would in fact be treated. Any other hormone that we have, if we're out of whack, they treat it. And insulin is the one they don't.
which makes no sense.
No sense at all. And frustrating because, you know, there are people, and he makes this point very well and goes into a lot of detail in these 2 chapters about the fact that not everybody who is obese is metabolically unhealthy.
And not everybody
who is
normal or
thin
underweight
or normal is
healthy either.
So it's absolutely possible to have high blood pressure, high triglycerides, low HDL cholesterol, and elevated fasting glucose without having central adiposity and still having metabolic syndrome.
And we have a friend who probably weighs 115, and she is the most unhealthy, healthy-looking person.
Yeah.
So.
That's not everybody's case, but
No,
but it is possible. So it's not a question of being obese or overweight or any of that. It's a question of
what's going on inside your body.
Exactly. Where your hormones are at, and what you do as part of your lifestyle to sort of regulate those things. Menopause, yes.
And have your hormones checked. It's amazing what those results are. I've had mine checked. I don't know if you've had yours checked.
Yes, I have.
So
that's a conversation for another time. In fact, I think there's a chapter later
on that,
yeah.
But it's amazing. It's like, what? That's going on inside my body.
That's another thing that I went through when I had my blood test. I was checking my numbers on, and I don't know how much of my personal health history I want to talk about this. Hey, Lauren, good to see you. Thanks for joining.
Hello.
And Kristen.
I do what my body wants.
I do what my body wants. Kira, yes, menopause. Yikes. Okay, so Spiral Down says, I do what my body wants. If I wake, I go have a few minutes up, go do some stuff, get back into my night thing. I wake up before my alarm now, but I'll always be a night owl. I'm a skinny unhealthy too. I'm sorry to hear that. So let's talk about that for a second. Since I don't think he talks about sleep nearly enough in these 2 chapters. Let's talk about it.
Okay.
Also, because I don't want to talk about my personal health history.
Yeah.
Stressing out. Okay, so not getting enough sleep elevates your cortisol, right? And stressing out about not being able to get enough sleep, which is what a lot of people do. Oh my God, I've got to get to sleep. I've got to get to sleep. Also elevates your cortisol, which again makes it harder to get to sleep. And you're putting yourself through this cycle. So what Spiral Down just suggested of if you're waking up or you're not sleeping, I mean, we all know that screens are bad.
Yep.
Don't
doom scrolling.
Don't doom scroll. And the blue light from the screen, just in general, even if you're looking at positive stuff, the light is messing with your eyes. Everybody recommends putting your phone and your tablets down at least a half an hour before you go to bed.
I think later on the book he says 2 hours before.
Oh, 2 hours. Okay, so the general stuff that I see on the internet, not in this book, is at least a half an hour. And you're right. I do think he says 2 hours.
And then I cover up all the little blue and red lights all around in the room.
Right.
Off the TV and whatever's glowing in the room, I cover up.
The eating of the rabbit. I don't, Kira, I'm not sure what the eating of the rabbit is
in reference to.
In reference to. I'm confused. Anyway, so yeah, if you're stressing yourself out, do something else to relax you. Get up, get a drink of water.
Don't get on your phone.
Don't get on your phone. You know, maybe close your eyes and meditate, where the purpose is not falling asleep. It's actually just calming down your mind. And I don't know that any doctor would actually recommend this, but I used to work in really noisy places sometimes, you know, like generator going off all the time. And it's just hard to, and also because I have a hard time shutting my brain down at the end of the night. Oh, you actually corrected Nate when she said, eating that, the Easter candy was bad. Okay, thank you. Okay.
It is bad, I know.
No, she's saying it's not. Stop it.
Okay.
That's what I'm getting at.
Everything
in moderation is okay. Okay, so back to the sleep.
Thank you, Kira.
Thank you for explaining that, Kira. So
a noisy environment.
Yes, a noisy environment. So what I do, I was like really into the Harry Potter books, and I've had the audio books for decades, right? So I've listened to them 100 times. My brain already knows what the story is. I'm not super paying attention to it.
It's the drone of the voice.
Yes, it's the voice. And I did this, I had like a really super stressful time in my life when I was in my early 20s, like anxiety attacks that I was on medication for. It was really, it was really bad. And I was in the living room one time and The Joy of Painting was on. So everybody loves Bob Ross, right? He's got that, you know,
monotone.
let's do this happy little tree thing. And oh, Kira, you're fine. We're good.
Oh, you're fine.
You're fine, Kira.
You're fine.
So I fell asleep for like the first time in a long time, and
To his voice.
To his voice, and I actually I recorded about 12 episodes of The Joy of Painting, and whenever I would have trouble sleeping, I would put in that VHS tape so I could sleep. And now I do it with audiobooks because
I do too.
So I
Now, do you put in earbuds or headphones?
I just listen to it. Because having things in my ear at any time is irritating to me, and if it's while I'm trying to sleep, that's not going to be possible. So again, it can't be a new book, because if I'm interested in what the storyline is or what's being discussed in the book, that's not going to help my brain. It's not going to help my brain shut down. But a story I've heard 100 times and somebody's the narrator for the because they're children's books, right? So it's not monotone, but it's cheerful and
you know what's going to happen.
And soothing. Yes, and I know what's going to happen. So that's my trick. Everybody has their own,
I
right?
do the same. I put on an audiobook and I put headphones on, and then it just drones on and I go back to sleep.
Yeah. Or, you know, if you have access to Joy of Painting audio, I'd recommend that.
Some people do like ocean sounds and the waves going back and forth, but we have them right outside.
Yeah. Well, we don't sleep with our windows open, though.
Yeah, door.
So yeah, that's kind of it for chapters 5 and 6, and I've got to look this up because it's going to be chapter 7 and 8 next week.
Spiral down. Every weekend I watch Bob Ross YouTube stream.
Oh, that's awesome.
I hope it helps.
That is awesome. I didn't know there was a YouTube stream. Now I'm going to have to look at that. Okay, so let's see what we've got here. I'm going to say the titles of chapter 7 and 8. So chapter 7, The Ticker, Confronting and Preventing Heart Disease, the Deadliest Killer on the Planet. And chapter 8 is The Runaway Cell, New Ways to Address the Killer That Is Cancer. So we're going to be talking about heart disease and cancer. So this is awesome. This is interesting. Chapters 5 and 6 were both about metabolism, i.e. metabolic disorders. One chapter on heart disease, one chapter on cancer, and one chapter on neurodegenerative diseases. So he thinks metabolism is so important, he's giving it 2 chapters where all the other 4 horsemen,
get one.
The 3 other only get 1. I think it's probably because we know a lot more about these, although I don't know about neurodegenerative. I don't think we know as much about. We know practically nothing about how those start and what.
Dumped a ton of money into it, but we still don't know. Kind of like cancer. You'd go to sleep with the best of Led Zeppelin song around? Wow.
Well, and Bob Ross too. So whatever works for you at the time.
That's great.
Yeah.
4 hours.
You sleep 4-ish, but I nap. Ugh, that's got to be rough too. And I'm glad you're at least napping. And I will say, so there's lots of advice on this subject too. If you're, again, as long as you're not stressing yourself out when you can't sleep, if you're laying in bed and just sort of, calming yourself down and not stressing out about it, that's also rest.
Yes.
It's not sleep, but it's also rest. So it's not exactly a bad thing. And again, as long as you are not raising your cortisol levels by stressing yourself out,
that's a good thing.
Live and believe. Yeah, no problem for being late. I know we're almost we're almost done here. And again, not a lot of information on sleep in this chapter, but it's
coming. I think chapter 11.
Is it chapter 11? Okay. So we will be talking about that at some point. Again, chapter 7 and 8 for roughly a week from now.
Depends on internet.
Depends on it. Or we should have better internet in about a week. And then, of course, we've got a lot of ports coming up. So this is another reason, like, we can really only schedule these on C days because we both have because I'm asking Renee's time, not only to, do notes but also to sit with me here and talk about it. So,
and we want to do the excursions.
And we want to do the excursions, yes. roughly in a week, I will start looking at where we're at, because that's going to be after Beijing, and we're going to have. So we have the Great Wall of China coming up in a week too. Though kids are kicking my ass today, so I might be asleep early-ish. Yes, it is possible. Awesome.
Oh, I
Okay.
would do anything for a bubble bath, spiral down. Those are wonderful.
Oh yeah. All right, everybody.
Thank you.
Again, a week from now, 7 and 8, and the next cruise update live will be Thursday. That'll be me and Steve, though.
Yep.
And Renee, you want to give your socials out on this one?
Yep. TikTok is Shawl Renee, ShullRenee, and my YouTube is Renee Shawl and Shawl Set Sail.
Okay. And then in the when the live gets posted to YouTube for the folks that want to watch it after, I will try to remember to put your
If not, I'll
socials
put it
in the
comments.
Yeah, you can put it in the comments and pin it. Can you pin your own comments?
Only you can pin.
Okay. When you put it in there, let me know and I'll pin it.
Okay.
All right. Thanks everybody for showing
Thank
up.
you.
Till next week. Bye,
Bye.
Lauren. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye, Aaron.
This one.
There we go.